Rightio, we're back on Ron's frame. If you remember last time, I put the exhaust hangers, PMC out of Japan, make the reproduction ones. I used my jig and I put them on. Now, at the end of that video, I spoke about the frame damage we found. So that's a crack in the frame. Now, I thought it was mainly from frame flex, which was not unusual on these when they were used as race bikes over the years. Up in there is old school frame bracing. We know this has been a race bike at some stage. But when I put it back up in the jig, and I had a look at its alignment and the way the cases fit into the frame, I could tell that an unusual accident, because there was not much twist in the headstock, but the headstock was over to the side that has the crack, and then all the tube work was all over as well, and the motor was not sitting in the frame properly. Now, a twist is a fairly easy operation. This required a few more steps, but I've got it back into alignment. I use my over here my bevel gauge, and I've done Z frames before because that's what we do. So I know that 14 plus X amount of millimeters by a certain angle means that the headstock's in the right position. So I'll put some pictures up of the process. A few different steps of the jigs have to be moved around to do different things as I need them. But the net result was that though the misalignment wasn't horrible, and probably, you could have just about left it. It was outside what I'd classify as tolerance, but it wasn't the worst I'd ever seen. Now, the problem is I'm about to chop this section of frame out and weld something back in, and there's no use doing that with it out of alignment. So I took the opportunity, put it back all into alignment. At least now all of the engine mounts, because I had to push that side tube that way to fit that engine mount, because you got your knowns. This is an old set of cases that I have for the job. If you actually look, they've been exploded via drag racing, all the way cracked down through there. But what I've done, you can't see it, I might put some pictures up, but because I use this for this job, I've put inserts in all of the mounts, and then I bolt to the mount. The reason that I do this is, yes, it does make it a little bit more painful to get the whole thing into position, because you don't have any movement in the hole, the clearance of the hole to a through bolt. So the factory ones have got a little bit of play and slop so that these motors can just be in. The frames aren't fantastic to begin with. Though this one from there back was utterly pristine, within half a mil of center. It was fucking fantastic. But anyway, so by unbolting and bolting, I can get all of the positions back into where they should be. So I'm really kind of happy with that now. This one was a bit of a pain, getting those bosses on the down tube of the frame to line up with the edge of the motor where it should be off that side. That's a known point, but it's all good there now. So this last jig that I've done is I've just welded the top of the frame and below my cut line frame to the structure. And it looks a bit horrible, but actually the least intrusive way is actually MIG weld directly onto the frame. I find I can get a lot more force through the bends. I do mainly cold bends, very rarely do I need heat. When people use clamps, I've seen clamps mangle the pipe, they just misshape it a little bit. It's a lot of force. MIG weld, pretty much, break it off, lap it back, and it's just a quick file finish, and you're good to go. And surprising how little weld you need. Just in multiple points, triangulate it out. I keep a lot of scrap for this. You can see this is not the first time the steel's been used for this task, and basically triangulate it out, hold it, because around here, is that crack. Come on, focus for me. There we go. So, unfortunately for me, where this crack is, I can't just take a cut. I've actually got to take a section of tube out to be able to get the inserts in that come back and form the inside of the frame rail to give strength to this repair. So your first instinct's to take one of the cuts of the section through the crack and then move up. But unfortunately, on Z's, this brace is in the way. And where I can cut it, I can detach this weld here, put a weld cut through there and take that off, do my repair and put that back in, weld it out, because the welding that holds that brace in is all done behind in the factory, and it's almost impossible to get to. Now you can see the factory weakness on this series of frames. On the early Z1s, they are very thinner material, thinner sections. Those holes, they always seem to crack right through there. Now I'll put some extra weld in, panel beat them, make them all new. But back to this. So what I'm choosing to do is, this is 1.25 inches, so 32 mil. Over there on my bench is some chrome moly 32 mil I'd left over from another job. So what I've opted to do is a little bit more drastic, is I'm actually going to cut either side of that crack equally, and that allows me, because when you do these sort of inserts, a good rule of thumb is a minimum of the pipe diameter by 2. So see how that will be 32 from there to there, and then 32 from there to there. That's generally what you use as a minimum. So what this allows me to do is to actually have 2 of them, one there and one there, before this bend, so I don't have to cut out the whole bend. And then this top one, that cut line there, is in a section I can get to do a repair. Now I still need room on either sides, because I do a series of plug welds through the tube into my insert and then join it that way. With most of these repairs, the strength comes more from that than it does through the welding of these joints. So I'll section that out, pop it out, make some inserts, drill a series of holes, have a piece of chromoly, put the chromoly back in, and then make that all work. Lap it all up, clean it up, and put the brace on, and this frame is just about done. So I'll come back a bit later when I've done a bit more. Cheers. Righto, it's some time later, and this thing is all fixed up, ready to go. I've done the repair, which ended up being this piece here. That's that crack all the way around, just from there to there, holding on. Okay, now if I've done my job right in the editing, there should be a couple of small videos that you'll see me cutting this section out, getting a piece of 32mm chrome moly, some pieces inside, gets all welded up. The gold finish is actually silicon bronze that I TIG braze in. Generally, some jobs I do it, some jobs I don't, but on a job like this, it was easier to file the brass than the weld to keep this line perfect. So I do my TIG weld. I generally leave it just underneath the top, and I'll go back in and I'll TIG braze with silicon bronze to give me just a lovely place to just take that back. But over on this side, where the steering dampener I just made up is, it's just a bit of angle and some plate welded on there because all the factory mounts weren't meant to have a steering dampener on them, so they all crack. This one had cracked and someone had ground in, there's a hole there. Again, I've got some pictures I'll throw up through this. I just made that up. But this is actually, you can just see a little bit of witness there. There was actually two holes here that needed repairing, and where they ground, both this side and that side was all wavy, as happens when you use a grinder to try to fix this stuff. I just used the normal MIG for that. So it comes down to just what I'm doing at the time, but either way works. I just prefer it on this. So that was all cleaned up. This piece was put back in. I welded it, I panel beaded it so it's all straight again. Did the best I could on the inside. But overall, it's a really nice frame. What he's left with is actually pretty bloody good. I don't think it's actually been a race frame. I'm going to go back and say it was probably hot street. Hot street blokes used to definitely cut those hangers off to put bigger swing arms and tyres in them. Definitely had bracing. Now, the reason that I might say hot street is it's actually got all of the factory tags still on it. It's actually really good on all of these. This one needed just a bit of a bump to get right, get it back square. Now, it doesn't particularly matter, it's how many hands ago, but overall, once it's all put back into shape, it's actually, when you look through it, a pretty good frame. So I hope he's happy. I am. I think it's come out quite nice, as all of these are. More work than I probably anticipated, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. They just sometimes take time to get them right. Anyway, till next time, catches.